Wow. What a mess this has turned out to be. Oh my god. Whoa. Alright. Well, this morning, when I was looking at Twitter on my phone, looking up news about Gamescom, because I knew that was happening today, and I couldn't watch anything because I was at work, unfortunately. And then all of a sudden, I scroll and I see Rise of the Tomb Raider, an Xbox exclusive. And when I saw that news, I set my phone down, I rubbed my eyes, because it was still kind of early in the morning for me. Then I picked my phone up and I read it again. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Wow, seriously? Whoa. I did not see that coming. And sure enough, it is true. Rise of the Tomb Raider is apparently going to be an Xbox exclusive. And this has caused a big shitstorm, to say the least. And I hope this video doesn't go too long, and apologies in advance if it does, but yeah, I just gotta get some things off my chest about this, because in some ways I'm gonna go in a slightly different direction in some of my thoughts about this. But first off, I'd like to state that on the part of Microsoft, this is a smart business decision. Because at this point, Microsoft is backed up against the wall. They have to do whatever it takes to sell Xbox Ones. They just lost 3 exclusives that were, well, not only available on the Xbox One, but they weren't available on PlayStation. Rise, Son of Rome, and Dead Rising 3 are apparently going to go to the PC, so they lost them as Xbox One exclusives. And Plants vs. Zombies is about to hit the PlayStation 4. And I'm assuming the PlayStation 3 as well. So they're about to lose that too. So at this point, Microsoft, they have to do whatever it takes to get some type of exclusivity on anything they can at this point. They got to do whatever they can to make you want to go out and buy an Xbox One. And you know what? I'm sorry. I can't fault them for that. Because if I was in the gaming industry and I had a console, I would do whatever I had to do to get people to buy my console. Why do you think Microsoft is making all of these bundles of games where the game is basically free? Because they're trying to entice you to buy an Xbox One. So, them paying Square Enix money to get some type of exclusivity for the new Tomb Raider game, I can't totally fault them for. I really can't, because it's business and you have to do what you have to do to try to get people to buy your console. You want to know who's also done that before? Sony. Do any of you remember the early Grand Theft Auto games? And what I mean by that is Grand Theft Auto 3 through Vice City and San Andreas. When those 3 games launched, they were only available for the PlayStation 2. Now, why is that? I guarantee you Rockstar didn't pick the PlayStation 2 because they wanted to give Sony exclusivity out of the kindness of their hearts. No, what happened was that Sony pulled out their wallets and gave Rockstar money to get some type of exclusivity for the early Grand Theft Auto games on the PlayStation 2. Because if any of you were around back then, and I'm sure a lot of you who might be watching this are and were, Grand Theft Auto was a huge deal back then. It still kind of is, but I don't think, at least in the case of Grand Theft Auto 5, I don't think the hype was as strong for, I would say, 4 and 5 as there was for Vice City and San Andreas, because at the time, the GTA games were in its own league, and they were one-of-a-kind experiences because there weren't many other games at the time that were like what Grand Theft Auto was. See, when Grand Theft Auto 4 and then 5 came out, there were other competitors. So I don't think the hype was as strong. Of course, that's just my opinion. So think about it back then. The only way you could play a Grand Theft Auto game when it launched back then was on the PlayStation 2. Don't you think that that is a way, and Sony did that, so that you could go out and buy a PlayStation 2 just so you could play this game? Yeah, I think so. So, unless someone wants to tell me I'm wrong, how is that any different from Microsoft doing this with the Tomb Raider game? I can't really see a difference. I mean, personally, I can't. I'm sorry. You gotta do what you gotta do to get people to buy your system. And that's all this really is. Now, if anyone, in my opinion, should be mad at anybody in this situation, you need to take aim at Square Enix. Because, and notice I'm saying Square Enix, and I'm not saying Crystal Dynamics. Because I'm willing to bet Crystal Dynamics, being the developers of the game, had very little say in this decision. Because when it comes to money decisions like this, it is a publisher decision. And who's the publisher of the game? Square Enix. The same Square Enix that were disappointed with the original Tomb Raider sales. Never mind the fact that the last Tomb Raider game sales were actually quite exceptional in my opinion. No, it wasn't good enough for Square Enix. So, if you have to be mad at somebody in this situation, you should be mad at Square Enix. Because they're the ones that basically just alienated a bunch of gamers. And yes, I read this statement on that the Crystal Dynamics made. Now, I guarantee you, even though Crystal Dynamics made this statement, I guarantee you Square Enix was behind them, telling them what to say. I guarantee it. 98% sure. So, and I read it, and it's a bunch of corporate bullshit. It really is. It is corporate bullshit. Because a lot of these statements here, and I'm going to read some of them to you. I'm sure some of you have already read it already, but I just like to quote, just to be accurate. We consider all of you to be the lifeblood of Tomb Raider, and the work we do at Crystal. Well, okay, if that's the case, you consider everybody to be the lifeblood. Why did you just alienate a bunch of people? Yeah, that's a very good question. That is a really good question. And our friends at Microsoft have always seen huge potential in Tomb Raider and have believed in our vision since our first unveil with them on their stage at E3 2011. We know they will get behind this game more than any support we have had from them in the past. Never mind the fact that the last Tomb Raider game got a bunch of backing from PlayStation gamers and PC gamers. Yeah, they kind of count too, so yeah, not a smart statement to make. Oh yes, and here's the big statement. This doesn't mean we're walking away from our fans who can only play on PlayStation or PC. We have Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris, or Osiris, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, coming to those platforms this December, and of course you have the Tomb Raider Definitive Edition. You know what that basically is? That is a smack in the face. That is a insanely idiotic and ignorant statement to make. Because keep in mind, the Temple of Osiris is also going to be on the Xbox One too. And I'm assuming 360. So, it'd be one thing if maybe that was exclusive on the other side to maybe counteract it, even though I don't think it's a fair counteraction. But yeah, it's a very slap in the face to other gamers. And this was such garbage. But like I said, I guarantee you, Square Enix, this is a Square Enix statement, not a Crystal Dynamics statement, because in a lot of these decisions, the developers, they don't have much say in these decisions. Because all they do is make the game. All they do is put their time and effort into making games. Maybe my perception of the industry is wrong, but that's what I've always seen it as the developers make the game and the publishers deal with all the money aspects. That's how I've always seen it. So I'm not going to get mad at Crystal Dynamics for this. Now, I will get mad at them for not making another Gex game, but that's another story for another video. So yeah. Wow, this is a big mess. It really is. But I have to also be honest. Because I got to be perfectly honest. When I first heard this news this morning, the first thought popped into my head was, I can't wait to see Sony loyalists. And I'm being specific here. Don't misconstrue this. Please don't. I'm not talking about people with a preference. I'm talking about the die-hard loyalists to a brand. And my first thought was, I can't wait to see these Sony loyalists, their heads explode over this news. Sure enough, I wasn't disappointed. Their heads did explode, and there were many casualties. Many casualties. Unfortunately, pissed off a lot of non-loyalists too, understandably so. And then, of course, the petitions started. Oh, the Sony loyalist petitions. They love these petitions. Keep in mind, I remember back in 2008. I remember all the way back in 2008. Microsoft E3 2008. And this was a huge coup at the time for Microsoft. They announced at the end of their E3 that Final Fantasy XIII. Keep in mind, this was before we found out that game wasn't that great. But this was a real hyped up game back then. A new entry in the Final Fantasy series. And Microsoft came out and announced that it was going to be multi-platform. And it was also coming to the Xbox 360 because people originally thought it was going to be PlayStation exclusive because the previous Final Fantasy games were, all the way back to 7, were only on Sony platforms. And everybody assumed Final Fantasy XIII was going to follow suit. So when Microsoft did that, oh boy, Sony loyalists, they went berserk. I remember, because I used to be in forums back then, and I would comment with other people. I remember people saying that, oh my god, Square Enix betrayed Sony. They betrayed Sony. Yeah, digest that statement, if you will. Never mind the fact that Final Fantasy didn't start on the PlayStation. They started on Nintendo. But they apparently betrayed Sony. And I remember there were petitions to boycott Final Fantasy and Square Enix until it became a PlayStation exclusive again. And I remember there was a YouTube channel dedicated to this. I remember seeing it back then. I'll go look for it after I make this video. And if I find it, I'll put the link in the description here. But yeah, they were just immense butthurt over the fact that a game was going to be multi-plat. Keep in mind, they weren't losing Final Fantasy XIII. It was still going to be available on the PlayStation 3. So, yeah, that's the mindset of a loyalist. They don't give a damn about anything other than their preferred platform of choice. Their platform that they live and die for. They want to get all the exclusives and to hell with everybody else. So, of course, the petitions have already started for this. So, and of course, petitions don't really work. I don't know why people waste their time with this, but these petitions don't work. I don't know why people waste their time doing this. But another thing that's been on my mind about this, and you know, I might get hate for this. I might, but I think it has to be said. I guarantee you, if the shoe was on the other foot, and that Square Enix or Crystal Dynamics came out with a statement, and Sony said on stage that the new Tomb Raider game was going to be exclusive to PlayStation 4, I guarantee you most of the people complaining about this right now would not give a damn. I'm sorry, I firmly believe that. Because these same people who are diehard PlayStation loyalists have just recently been kicking Microsoft on the ground because they just lost Rise and Dead Rising 3. And I guarantee you that if the shoe's on the other foot here and the new Tomb Raider game would be a PlayStation 4 exclusive, they would be happy about it. Excuse me. And they would come out and say, ha ha, Microsoft, you just lost another exclusive. You got no games. Her. I guarantee you this would happen. Or, I don't think people who, even though they're not loyalists, let's just say they chose PlayStation 4, I don't think they'd be as upset about it. I firmly believe it. Of course, anybody's more than welcome to tell me why I'm wrong. I'd love to hear it. But I see the perception of the community, and especially since most of the gaming community out there owns a PlayStation 4 over an Xbox One. PlayStation 4 outsells Xbox One 3-1. I guarantee you if this news was flip-flop, this wouldn't be as big of an uproar as it is. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not happy about this news. Even though I own an Xbox One, I also own a PlayStation 4 and a 360 and a PS3. I'm not a loyalist to one brand. Even though I will be able to play this when it comes out, I still don't like this news. I think this game should be multi-platform. Especially since the last Tomb Raider game was multi-platform. And it's not like the Bayonetta 2 situation. I know that people have been drawing comparisons with the Bayonetta 2 situation. The difference here is that Nintendo actually funded Bayonetta 2. Bayonetta 2 wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Nintendo's funding. So, Nintendo has every right to have that as an exclusive for the Wii U. It's not the same thing here, because I'm pretty sure the new Tomb Raider had enough funding to be made a multi-plat on all systems. So yeah, no, I'm not happy about this news at all. Don't misconstrue that. Anybody who is thinking about that. I just think it's amusing how the community reacts based on what system got the exclusive. Because honestly, even though I'm not happy about this news, and I think it's bad for most gamers, I can't blame Microsoft for doing this because, like I said earlier, they have to do whatever it takes to get people to buy Xbox Ones because they are backed up against the wall right now. And when you are backed up against the wall, you will start to do desperate things. Desperate times call for desperate measures. And it's also, like I said earlier, Sony has done this in the past, and Sony is not above doing this, and I can see them pulling something like this as well on another franchise this generation. So, yeah, I think that's about it, and let me know what you think, if you agree or disagree. What a mess this is. What a mess. So, alright, I will see you all next time. Have a good one. Later.